Welcome to An Honorable Profession, a podcast giving America hope since 2018. I'm Ryan Coonerty. Along with Debbie Cox Bolton of the New Deal, I'm lucky enough to be your co-host. An Honorable Profession is a New Deal Leaders podcast. The New Deal is an organization that supports the next generation of American leaders. From attorneys generals to state senators to mayors to school board members, these are the people that are pushing policies and politics that will respond to climate change, rebuild our economy, address racial injustice, and restore our democracy. These are incredibly talented people who have dedicated themselves to public service when their country and their communities needed it the most. Check out newdealleaders.org to see what I'm talking about. Virginia Delegate Michael Feggans served in the Air Force for 20 years. When he left the military, he wanted to serve his home community of Virginia Beach. He ran for office, flipped a seat, and gave the Democrats control of the General Assembly. Since then, he's worked hard to support military service members and their families, expand constituent services, and fight for basic rights. We talked about how things look in Virginia's upcoming critical off-year election and the danger of the Trump administration's use of the military for political purposes. Delegate Feggans gives us an essential roadmap for swing districts and states. Let's hope we listen. Enjoy. Virginia Delegate Michael Feggans, welcome to An Honorable Profession.
Thank you for having me here today.
I want to start with your state. It's a key state. You have off-year elections, and it could be telltale for how the rest of the country is going to go in 2026. What are you seeing on the ground?
Well, once again, thank you for having me here today. What we're hearing on the ground is there's a lot of energy. There's a lot of energy because of our proximity to the federal government, to Washington, D.C., and to the chaos and confusion that's being emanating, not just in the Commonwealth of Virginia, but across the country and being felt across the globe. And so there's a lot of energy for our voters to get involved. And so we've been knocking doors all this year. We have constant town halls. I'm actually getting ready for my 7th town hall this year, just next week. And so and the energy and the messaging that we're getting is that voters are tired and frustrated from what's happening, and they want to get involved. And so the best way they can really get involved is by participating in our elections this fall. As you stated, Virginia has off-year elections. And so in Virginia, we have elections every year. And so every year is one of the most important elections. And this year, again, is one of the most important elections to be involved with. So we're hearing constantly about the affordability that's coming down, our proximity, as I mentioned, to the federal government in Washington, D.C., so much of not just my community. I represent House District 97 in Virginia Beach. Virginia Beach is my home. And so many of our constituents here have a connection to the federal government, and mainly through the military. And so we have a lot of military members, military family members, contractors, and individuals that work or are associated with the Department of Defense in some type of, or just the federal government. And so as we're seeing contracts potentially dry up, the individuals that previously were having the ability to work remotely and having to go and many of them have lost their jobs or their jobs were curtailed because of what's happening from the chaos and confusion from DC. Our voters are ready to respond. And so, and they have now, we have early voting starting on September 19th. And so I believe we have less than 30 days. And so 30 days for early voting. Our election will be on November 4th this year. And our voters have the chance to respond to not just the Commonwealth, and not just to the nation, but to the world, that we're rejecting much of the chaos and confusion that's coming down from DC.
Yeah, I want to dive in because you both are obviously a huge governor's race, but then you also have control of the state legislature on the line, which could have huge impacts for the state. But you're a 20-year Air Force veteran.
Yeah.
What are the folks that you know, sort of in active duty or retired now? What do they think about this chaos, and do they trust the Democrats to protect and deliver for them?
And so, as someone who served for 20 years, I served all around the world, from everywhere from red states in Oklahoma, was able to serve here in Virginia at Langley Air Force Base, served during Operation Enduring Freedom in Kyrgyzstan, shutting down operations there, served in South Korea, Guam. Uh, what I'm hearing from a lot of my individuals that I still keep in contact with is a sense of frustration, because many of us did serve. Many of us served during the first term of Trump, President Trump. And while it was difficult, the difference was, though, that we always knew that there were levers, that there was individuals within the federal government who would speak out if the thought that he had didn't automatically come down to the troops instantly. And so no matter if it was the Secretary of Defense or the cabinets of the different service secretaries, individuals within the Pentagon, there were barriers. Those barriers are no longer there. Whatever he thinks goes directly down, and it's hurting morale. And so, and then for those of us that are retired or no longer serving, it's frustrating, because I've served under everyone. I served under President Obama. I served under President Bush, and the one thing as a military member, you're taught and you work with your troops to understand is that you trust the chain of command, and you trust the individuals above you to make sure that the decisions and the orders that are sent to them are correct. The difference now, though, is that there is a feeling that there are rollbacks that they're trying to push in that seem to own, that strictly have a partisan view. For example, what recently happened at Fort Bragg, I believe, where there was a rally there. There was an event for the president. You would never have seen troops utilized that way, or in such a partisan manner. I actually heard this on the doors, where those who have served or their family members that served, is that the military has always been seen as one of the most respected institutions in America. No matter what your partisan belief is, it has always been ranked as one of the highest. And to now see incidents like that, or to have MAGA paraphernalia sold on base, that would never have happened during any other administration. If that had happened on a base for President Obama, that would have been wrong. If it had happened during President Bush, that would have been wrong. But for it to happen now, and for it to be glossed over, and to now see that they're utilizing our National Guard troops in such a way to install fear in communities, it's difficult to see. And so, what in Virginia we talk about this is that your vote is about a lot. Your vote this year is going to be about electing our governor, who we hope will be soon elected, Abigail Spanberger, our lieutenant governor, Senator Hoshby, and one of the most important positions that has been absent over the past 3 years, and especially absent over these past 6 months, is a competent attorney general, and we have that in Jay Jones. And when we've seen other states, especially Democratic states, suing on behalf of their states to make sure that they're properly represented on so many different issues, and we've had someone just kind of sit by the side, we need someone like a Jay Jones as our attorney general. And then the ability for us to expand our majority. I was the 51st seat in 2023. So my seat was the one that not only gave us the majority, but gave us Speaker Don Scott. And we have, for the past 2 years, delivered on our promises. But there's so much more work that needs to be done. As someone who's had great bills vetoed over the past 2 years, we need someone like Abigail Spanberger as our governor.
Yeah, tell us about some of the efforts that you've made in the legislature thus far, and what you're hoping to do with a majority and with the governor?
Over the past 2 years, I've really been focused on keeping, number one, keeping my promise. Our promise was for first was we had to make sure we're going to get those constitutional amendments. And so for the viewers that are unaware, in Virginia we have a long process to update our Constitution. And so right now we're focused on, for our constitutional amendments, we have three. We have the constitutional amendment for reproductive freedom. We have the constitutional amendment on restoration of rights, and we have a constitution amendment on being able to marry who you love. And those were some of our three primary areas that we focused on in 2023 when we ran. And it was important for us to keep those promises. Virginia is a firewall for reproductive freedom for the South. We've seen so many patients travel hours and hundreds of miles just to receive the type of care they should be able to receive in their home state. And to see now potentially signaling from a Supreme Court that has been really, it really seems that they're really ready to roll back so many of the protections that they have. So when we look at being able to marry who you love, you'll see many saying, why do you need something like that? And then you'll see lawsuits happen, and then the signaling potentially that there are those that would want to roll that back. And then Virginia has one of the worst areas in terms of giving individuals their right to vote after they've served their debt. And so after individuals have served their time, now the way it works is that they have to one by one go to the governor. And what we've seen is that process hasn't been working. And so now we have thousands of individuals not able to exercise their right to vote after they serve their time. And so those are three of the areas that we've been working on. And most importantly, affordability. That is one of the areas we've been working on, for affordability of prescription drug prices. And in terms of the bills that I've directly passed, I've been really proud of the bipartisan agenda that I've had. My district is a purple district. And so I promised on election night that I was going to represent all 80,000 individuals in House District 97. And I believe we've done that. And so during my first term, we focused not only just on I passed bills on adding on protections for those that are renters, but also adding areas to make sure that we're supporting small businesses. And so I brought back and for us to recreate the Minority Business Commission and to make sure that commission was going to be up for the next 4 years. And additionally, I passed one of the largest bills, one of the largest changes in Virginia's procurement history in modern times, the Made in Virginia Act. That act ensures that Virginia businesses have a leg up with procurement opportunities from the Commonwealth. And so when outside companies come in and try to bid, we need to make sure that we're keeping Virginia dollars in with Virginia companies. And as a freshman, I was really proud to pass that. This year, I passed five additional bills. 4 of them focused heavily on our military families and our veterans. 2 of the ones that I'm most proud of are going to be the bill to remove the red tape on our National Guard members and to lower costs. And so previously, our National Guard members had to, when they went to go to school, they had to pay for school up front and then have it reimbursed. Well, I know how difficult that can be for our service members. I was able to obtain my associates, my bachelor's, my master's, and my graduate certification, all by a program while I was in the Air Force, by just applying to go to school and the schools being paid by being paid. And what we were hearing is that not only was it affecting retention, but it was also affecting recruitment, where National Guard members were being hesitant, or potential members were being hesitant to sign up when hearing about that. And so as of this year, and we're already hearing success about it, that National Guard members are now signing up to go back to school. I was really proud to hear about that. And one of the bills that was really important to me on a personal level, I've lost a few of my fellow airmen due to suicide. One of my close friends, Staff Sergeant Corey Bradley, killed himself during our early years in the Air Force, and his death has always stuck with me. And so when I was elected and heard that in Virginia that we actually have a code that criminalizes suicide, and what it basically does is that if an individual dies from suicide, it's still actually considered a criminal act. And we've had individuals try to remove that for a very long time. And so, but they've been unsuccessful. And I have to give a shout out to Delegate Marcus Simon. He has been trying year after year to try to remove that. And so I looked at it from a different perspective. I said, what if we just had a carve out just for our surviving spouses? Because right now in Virginia, up until I passed this bill, if a member died in combat, or if they died in a training accident, their family, the surviving spouse was allotted real property tax benefits, which means they were allowed tax benefits on tax cuts on their home and a vehicle. But the only individuals who were not allowed that were surviving spouses that died from suicide. And so we worked together on that, and this year and passed that bill to allow the surviving spouses that had died from suicide the same benefits as other surviving spouses, and we actually backdated it 10 years.
That's amazing. That's life-changing for people who are already struggling with trauma and grief.
Yes.
To not have that additional burden on them.
Yes.
Is incredible. Can you talk about, I think how the Democratic Party nationally, I'm thinking back, I went to law school in Virginia. It was a true swing state, along with like Ohio and Florida. And while those states have swung significantly to the right, Virginia has incrementally moved to the left. What do you think the success is? How have the Democrats in Virginia been able to connect and message with the voters in a way that maybe other swing states it hasn't happened?
One of the best ways really has been the investment we put within our so many of our communities. It's investing in terms of not just those that are running for office, but the infrastructure. For example, when I was elected, one of the first things I promised I would do was to actually create a constituent office. And a lot of members actually don't have a constituent service office, but I felt that it was really important to make sure that our constituents knew that they had a physical presence, that where they could call our office, that they could go there when they needed to. That's open Monday through Friday. So we're allotted one staff member in the Virginia House of Delegates, and so they are working day and night to help take care. Because for those that are unfamiliar, we are part-time legislators, but we are part-time only in name. The work that we have to do, the amount of responsibility that we have. So many of us have to have 2 or 3 jobs on top of being elected officials here in Virginia, unless you're afforded, if you come from a potentially wealthy family, or you have a great job that pays really well. Many of us, especially in this current outgoing freshman class, I believe there's 21 of us. That we are really reflective of the Commonwealth of Virginia, and so I've been really focused on taking our office and taking it directly to the people, and I think it's really paid dividends over these past 2 years. For example, we're coming up next week on our 3rd healthcare pop-up event. And what we do is we take healthcare resources and take them directly into the community. So we have a 3D mammogram bus that we partner with a healthcare network here, and we take it directly into the community so women can get scans. We then have pop-up tents, and we utilize the buildings within apartment complexes for individuals to get their blood pressure screenings, for them to sign up for the Affordable Care Act. We have free food and ice cream to make it fun for the community. We ask for nonprofits to come out to bring out information And I think that is that's one of the biggest differences is we have been really focused on being visible. And so while we'll often hear about national Democrats and the messaging and the image here in Virginia, I'm proud of the work that my colleagues that we've been really focused on taking care of our community, of being out there. Like I mentioned earlier, having my 7th town hall, and I partner with not just individuals within Virginia Beach, but we have our town hall next week is with Delegate Nadarius Clark, who helps represents parts of Suffolk and other localities, and we're joined together to show that we're stronger when we work together, and we're extremely visible.
I love it. I mean, that's makes all the difference when people can feel it and and see you on the ground. Can you talk about your path to public service? I mean, you had 20 years in the Air Force.
Yeah.
What led you to elected office?
A lot led to me to be here where I'm at today. A lot of it is I have to mention a early program that I was involved in while I was in the Air Force. It was called the Base Enlisted Advisory Council. And that was a council of enlisted members who represented each part of their organizations, who would meet with the base commander and the base chief. And I had a fellow airman at the time saying, "Hey, why don't you come join me and come to this council and see what it's about?" I didn't know anything about it, and I joined it, and I fell in love with what it was about. And so I became a member of the organization. That meant I was responsible for going around to the dormitories, talking with my fellow airmen about small issues, and taking those small issues directly to the base leadership. And that really started showing me the importance of having a seat at the table. And I eventually became president of the organization and started learning about not only the importance of having a seat at the table, but understanding about the money and understanding how the money and the resources really drives why or why not things happen. And then so one day, while I was serving as an instructor in the Air Force, and we had a few months off before our next class, I came up with an idea. I was like, well, if I want to do this when I retire, I need to get some experience. And there were no programs at the time for enlisted airmen to do this. There were programs for our officers, but there wasn't anything for our enlisted airmen. And so I literally took a few days of leave, drove from Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio, down here to Virginia Beach, and I interviewed for then Senator Jim Webb's office, and I was selected for it. And then from there, I took back that acceptance letter, and I crafted together different Air Force instructions, show that other branches allow their enlisted members to serve in Congress. And it took about 5 or 6 months, and eventually Air Force headquarters approved for me for permissive TDY, which means I was allowed to leave my day job as an instructor and be assigned to the congressional office. And and Senator Webb retired, and so I was transferred to Senator Mark Warner's office, and that's how everything kind of started. I learned about constituent services. I was able to craft speeches, learned about the day-to-day work that the constituent offices do, and I fell in love with it. And getting that experience really kickstarted everything I did up until running for office. And so that was a big part of my path. When I retired in 2021, I knew that I was going to come back home to Virginia Beach. I love this city. I loved growing up here, and I knew that it was time for the next generation to step up and lead. And so I retired, and I quickly began getting ready to run for office. I announced, and I ran for 18 months. And in 2023, I flipped our seat, and I was the only individual that year to beat an incumbent a Republican that year. And so the rest is history, and I'm proud of the work that we've done for the past 2 years, and I'm excited about the work that we're going to do over the next 2 years. We have 75 days, I believe, as of today, until our election. So we have a lot to make sure that our voters know about the work that we've done. And we've done an incredible amount of work, but it's also important to understand and talk with our voters and let them know that there's still a lot of work that we need to do.
Talk about, I imagine there's other potential military veterans out there, folks who've been gone from their hometown for a while. They've been out in the world getting experience, doing the work, but they want to come back and run for office. And tell me about how you reconnected with your community over that 18 months in order to make that campaign successful.
Yeah, I was fortunate that when I received orders to Langley, which is just 30 minutes away from here, that when I received orders, I actually purposely decided that I wasn't going to live near my base. I was actually going to live back in my hometown of Virginia Beach. And so I made that commute every single day. And then the second part I did was, and this is important for those that maybe don't have the opportunity to serve near their hometown but want to go back home, is that I got intimately involved with our Democratic committee. And so the relationships I built 10 years ago, joining the Democratic committee, helping out as much as possible. As service members, you're limited on how much you can do, especially officers enlisted have a little more leeway, but still and that's a good thing, because that's one of the reasons why our military service members are seen in such high regard by the public. It is that they're not doing openly partisan activities. And so, but for those that are retiring and going back home and want to get involved, the best thing you can do is to join your Democratic committee, to learn about and to get involved. It means a lot to those that you're willing to help knock doors, do phone banking, do the hard work, and you're just not going to just parachute in and say, hey, I'm captain, I'm sergeant, I'm colonel so-and-so, I served in the military, I want to run for office. That your service is important, but the relationships you build with your community, and especially if you've been gone for a long time, there's been a lot of individuals who've done a lot of work while you've been gone. And so the best way you can build and to understand what's going on is to really join with those committees, get involved, and not just with the Democratic committees, get involved with the areas that you love. If you're passionate about the environment, there's a Sierra Club or a League of Conservation Voters to get involved with. If you love to work on technology policy or helping out with housing, you name it, get involved in those communities now if you can, and especially when you move back home. And that's going to help out when it's time for you to step up and run for office.
That's great advice. I mean, I notice in every answer, for you, it comes back to doing the work, right? Doing the work in the military, doing the work in the campaign, doing the work in the legislature, doing the work in the constituent services. At the end of the day, that gets you like 90% of the way there in life.
There is not an easy pathway to get into this. It's just about doing the work, and that is why so many military members can be successful in doing this, because we are trained to do the work day in and day out, no matter if you like it or not. And campaigning is a lot of doing a lot of the same work every single day. It's about that discipline, about getting up, making those phone calls, going and knocking on those doors, looking that voter in their eyes, shaking their hand, saying, "I'm here to earn your vote. How can I help you?" And doing that every single day until 7 o'clock or whenever your polls close, and knowing that you put everything that you could to represent that community that you love.
Love it. Well, we love having you in the New Deal. We can't wait to be celebrating across the country. Knock on wood. Good results in Virginia, New Jersey, these other off-year states, and thank you for being on the podcast today.
Oh, thank you so much.
An Honorable Profession is a New Deal Leaders podcast. Thanks to the team at New Deal for producing this episode. We encourage you to bring honor to public service, and because we keep things honorable, No tax dollars are used in the making of this podcast.
This podcast is part of the Democracy Group,